Hello, this is Greg from Mystery Honey. Today I'm going to show you how to make a very simple mead. Things that you will need to make a mead are water. Always go for mineral water rather than tap water. It stops any off flavours coming from, like saying, chlorine or whatever is in the tap water. Next, you need honey. Now, if you are not a beekeeper, best thing you can do is go to a local beekeeper, find out how much it's going to cost for, say, like 2 kilograms, like a tub like this, and just buy it. It's going to be a bit expensive, but mead is a very expensive drink to make. Don't use supermarket stuff. That is mostly just syrup. If you're going to do that, you may as well just get some golden syrup and then turn that into some sort of golden syrup mead thing. Don't bother. Just go to a local beekeeper, get some decent honey. It's around about 2 kilograms. You need about 1.5 kilograms for this recipe today. The next ingredient to make a mead is yeast. So what I have here is 2 different types of yeast. You can use other types of yeast if you really want to, like bread yeast, but this really doesn't give very good flavour profiles at all. This will struggle to ferment a mead and you'll get a lot of bad flavours. Stick to something that is genuinely made for mead. So what we have here is Mangrove Jack's Mead Yeast MO5. This is what I'm going to be using today. This is pretty good for an all-rounder plain mead like I'm going to be making. So I'd highly recommend getting some of this. D47 is another one. This is Lalvin D47 yeast. So I tend to use this if I'm going to start adding some fruits or anything along those lines, like if I'm going to be adding berries or anything like that. This is really good for that, I found. And this is my favourite go-to if I'm making some sort of mead like that. But for today, I'll stick with this one. As for equipment, what you're going to need is something to sterilise everything. You need to be really clean and you need to be really sterilised when it comes to anything that's touching the must that you're going to be fermenting. So I have Chemsan, as you can see here. There are other sanitizers on the market, like VWP Cleaner Sanitizer, which is regularly available from a lot of different stores. I prefer this one because you can put it into a spray bottle, which makes things 10 times easier, especially if you need to get into the nooks and crannies. Next, what you need is a big spoon. This is so you can stir the honey round and make it a lovely mix all the way through. You don't want any honey stuck at the bottom and nothing at the top when you've added the water. You need to have a really, really good mix and then you don't have any weird pockets of honey everywhere. Big spoon, very important. Lastly, I would say this is probably one of the most important bits. This is just a bucket. This is your fermentation vessel. What we have here is a normal bucket that I bought when I was buying some stuff for honey. I have drilled a hole into it, added a valve, so you can get these black valves from eBay for something like 50p or something, so it's really cheap. And I've got an airlock as well. So the way this works is that it lets pressure out, so when fermentation takes hold, it's going to produce a lot of carbon dioxide, and that's what this is for. It lets air out, but doesn't let any nasties back in. Something not on the table is nutrition. Mead needs nutrition. The yeasts for mead need a lot of nutrition. Honey doesn't provide that much nutrition. A lot of carbohydrates, which is really good, but nothing else, no essential amino acids or anything like that that it may require to reproduce and digest the sugars easily. So if you want to go the whole hog, you can do what I do and buy Fermade K. So this powder is really good at giving the yeast the nutrition it needs to ferment properly. It's made up from lots of minerals, lots of vitamins, and it's got some dead yeast cells in here. Now, if you don't want to break the bank, which you may do if you buy this, you can do something similar with simple bread yeast. All you need to do is pour several packets into a cup and pour boiling water over the top of it. What that does is it breaks the cell walls down, so everything that's inside the yeast comes out. It kills that yeast as well, so it means that you're not going to get an infection from this yeast. Instead, you can keep using your mead yeast. Before we carry on though, I have a single rule, and that is before you start making any alcohol, you've got to start drinking that type of alcohol. So I'm making a mead, so I'm going to start by drinking a mead. It's 14%, so I'm not going to be drinking much more than this. So, the first step is cleaning. Cleaning is the most important part of mead making. It sounds stupid, but this is what you're probably going to spend most of your time doing when it comes to making a mead. You need to make sure that you get any bits of crap off any of your tools. So like this has got like a little bit of a seam from where it's pressed into the plastic, so I need to really give that a good scrub. Make sure any crap is out of there. Now remember, you're not sterilising doing this, you are just cleaning. So you're getting all the dirt off which could hide any bacteria or yeasts underneath it. You are not trying to kill everything on it. So you're just breaking away any layers of dirt or anything like that that could be hiding any nasties that could infect your brew. Cleaning airlocks is very important. This is going to be the only way that your brew is going to be able to breathe. Because you have water like that, put that over the top, and nothing can get in now without getting stuck in the water. Whereas if you have a buildup of carbon dioxide, which happens when you are respirating the sugars into alcohol. I've got a face full of soapy water then, but as you can see, the bubbles will go up there and go through the water. It's an airlock. Stops nasties from getting in. So it's very important to give this a good scrub. This is why every mead maker has 1,000 different types of bottle brush to get in all the nooks and crannies. If you're going to be using wood chips, I'd give them a quick rinse just to get rid of any dust or any loose particles, because you don't want any crap on them there, and then try and let them dry out as best you can. So I'm going to just give them there. Give them a quick rinse, friction them together, drop them out, and then lay them out singularly so they've got a lot of air to dry, because you don't want these getting mouldy, so you want a lot of air getting to them. As for your bucket, the most important part of your bucket that needs to be clean is the inside. Doesn't matter if the outside's a bit manky, as you can see it's got some sticky stuff from last time I had a label on here, but you just want the inside to be absolutely spotless. So there's another way of figuring out if there's any dirt in there. Your hand is the most sensitive thing really on your body, so run your hand along the plastic, go like that, see if you can find any sort of sticky bits or any bits that feel like sharp or something that doesn't feel smooth, like smooth plastic. If you find something, just have a look at it. It could be the fact that it's got some sort of markings into the plastic there, but if you're looking around and there's no markings there but you can feel something there, just give it a good old scrub until you can't feel it anymore. So I'm going to drop that there. And this one was quite manky on the inside, so it's going to take a bit of a good scrub. Take as long as you can cleaning, because this is one of the most integral parts. You don't want any infections coming from you being too lazy to clean a bucket, because 2 kilograms of honey is a lot of money, so you don't want to waste it. Another tip with buckets, always try and slide your hands along here. So in here, where the bucket's lid seals, that is prime place for infections to come in. So you want to make sure that there is nothing stopping from getting in and out. And you don't want any bits of mud or guff that are in there. If you can't get in with a sponge, I recommend getting one of these brushes and just like proper brushing it. So this one has a particularly hard bit, so I use that for these bits here. And it seems to get in quite well and get rid of any guff. If you don't have one of these brushes, then you can always use a bottle brush, one of these, and just get in the nook and cranny there. If you have a bottle brush, then just get one. They cost pennies, and they're really useful. Right, so now that this is all done, I'm going to leave it now to dry, and when there's no more suds and no more water in it, that's perfect time to start brewing with it. It's nice and clean. That's all you want at this stage to clean it. I forgot to mention, whilst I just moved my tripod to the kitchen, I'm going to be producing the recipe for this on my blog for you guys to just take on, and it means that it's nice and easy for you guys to follow along if you really want to. I'll provide a link in this description. Okay? Okay. Right, it's many hours later, about 8 o'clock, so all this stuff here should be nice and dry. So what I'm going to do is the next step, which is sterilisation. So I've just made up a fresh bottle of Chemisan. Generally, it lasts about a year if you make up a bottle and you don't go through it too much. And it's nice and easy to make sure you sterilise things. So all you do is this. Grab it, get it onto a fine spray, and just spray it all. You want to make sure you're getting all the nooks and crannies as best you can. Shake it a little bit, and then, yeah, you just put it back in there and leave it. It takes a matter of, let's have a look what it says. It takes 5 minutes. That's it. It's a no rinse thing either. So you spray it, you get 5 minutes, and it's sterilised, so it's ready to go. So that's what I'm doing. So do this, do the spoon. Put that back in. Do the airlock. Make sure you're getting all the nooks and crannies. The bucket. And then do the oat chips, if you're doing oat chips. Again, just leave them spaced out on their own. Should be fine. Sorted. Right, well that's all been sterilised, it's time for the next step. Right, so everything's cleaned and sterilised. First step is the most important one. That is starting with the bread yeast. Pour the packets in there, so I've got about 3 packets in this. And then next, you want to throw in 3 tea bags. 1, 2, 3. Doesn't particularly matter which type of tea bags it is. You can use Yorkshire tea, Tetley tea, whatever you want. Just some black tea, that's all you need. What that's going to do is it's going to give you a bit of mouthfeel when you're drinking your mead. Instead of it being like water, you know, super light, like it doesn't taste very nice, you want to have it with something like legs. So when you swirl a mead round, I'll show you. So when you swirl the mead round, you can see that it takes a bit of time for all the mead to sink down. Can you see that at the top there, around here? That is called legs. So you want your mead to have legs. That is generally caused by tannins. Now, honey doesn't have a lot of tannins in it, so that won't really generate legs. So what you need to do is you need to artificially do that. So I do that by adding tea. So in here I have 3 sachets of bread yeast, each one 7 grams. And 3 tea bags, 3 and 3, super easy for a 5 litre batch. Next, I'm going to add boiling water, and I'm going to take it all the way to the top, and I'm just going to let it steep. It's going to kill all that yeast, break it down, and it's going to steep those tea bags. Perfect. And then all I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to leave it. Just put it in the corner over there and leave it. Let it come back down to room temperature. That's all you need to do. Nice and easy, isn't it? Oh, that's nice. Right. Next stage is making a yeast starter. So yeast is great. So if you look here, this is a pack of what weight? 10 grams. This has 10 grams of yeast in it. Now what you want to do is you want to get them started. So it means that when you're pouring it into your must, because as soon as honey enters water and starts diluting, it will start releasing its own yeast, because inside honey is stacks and stacks of yeast from all the different types of flowers, all the different types of like fruit that they've visited, trees, bark, you name it, other insects, other stuff. So what you want to do is you want these to come in fighting. You want them to land inside that must and be the biggest monster in there and just outplay everybody in there. So the way you do that is with a yeast starter, and it's really, really easy to make. So what we want to do is make a solution that is pretty much what the must is going to be like. So we use the honey that we're going to be using, and we use some of the mineral water as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pour some honey into here. I'm probably going to do about 2 tablespoons, something along those lines. Just get it started. It doesn't have to be strong because it's going to be going into the must. What we need is just to give it enough energy to get started. So I'm going to do that now. As a quick aside, this is the honey that I keep saying is the best stuff for mead making. So this is from the foam that is on top of the honey. When you put it into the settling tank, use this cling film to get the wax off the surface. So it still has the cling film in it. But all this wax, all these bits of guff that is in there, that is absolutely brilliant for adding even more nutrients and flavour into the mead. It looks a bit manky, but it is just wax. It's just dark wax. But this is really good for the mead. So I'm going to take the cling film out. I think there's another bit there. This is from several fillings of the settling tank. So there's quite a lot in here. I'll just shake it a bit, get as much of the wax in the honey as possible. There's another one there. I've also warmed this honey as well, so that's why it is dripping like water rather than staying still. Another one here. There we go. But as you can see, the honey underneath is absolutely fine. It's perfectly fine. So it's just the wax that is in here and the cling film that looks a bit dodgy. Other than that, it's fine. Is it more? Is that just wax? Yeah, there's even more. Perfect. So as you can see, the wax is still in there, but the honey underneath looks absolutely fine. Yeah, you see that? So for the starter, you don't really want the wax, just in case there are yeasts, etc. in this wax. So just push it to one side and just do a couple of tablespoons. So 1, 2. Oh, sorry, let's go for 4. 3, 4. Now I've used my chemisan on this tub before I put this honey in. I don't want any infections coming from anywhere, but there you are. So we've got about 4 tablespoons of honey in there. Perfect. And then all we're going to do is just add a bit of water. It doesn't need to be a huge amount. I'd probably just fill it about halfway. So as you can see, we've added honey and water. That's all the yeast needs to get started, really. So I'm going to stir that up so it's nice and mixed. And then what I'm going to do is something that I tell no one to do, and that's microwave honey. So I'm going to be microwaving this just to get it to about 40 degrees C, something along those lines. You want it to be quite warm. Yeast multiplies best at about 30 to 40 degrees C. So if you can get it to around halfway there, then that's perfect. So I'm going to keep stirring. Don't worry if you lose a bit. And then we'll get this nice and warm and add the yeast. There you are. I think that's all dissolved now. Cool. Right, so I'm going to stick it in here for 30 seconds. And we'll just keep checking on it every 30 seconds to see if it's the right temp. Right, so it's easy enough to find out whether it's the right temperature. You can either use a thermometer or you can just hold it. It should feel nice and warm to the hand, like a warm bath. Perfect. 30 seconds was enough. Now with that nice and warm, what we're going to do is we're going to add our mead yeast. So as I said, I'm using Mangrove Jack MO5. This is really good stuff. So all you do, shake it in. Stir it in, and then we'll just leave it to it while we do the rest. So make sure you mix it. You don't want it all stuck at the surface. And hopefully soon, when we've finished making the must, this will be all bubbly and lovely. Try and get as much of the yeast back into the water. Right, so I'm just going to move this out of the way, and you can keep an eye on it over here. Hopefully what you'll start seeing is that the yeast will start rising and falling. But I'm going to keep it there just so we can all keep an eye on it. But by the time that I've finished all this, that should be ready. Right, the next stage is to make the must. Again, this is super simple. This is one of the easiest hobbies to get into. It's quite expensive, but it's one of the easiest. So take the lid off, because we're going to be putting everything inside this bucket now. Once it enters this bucket, it will not be leaving this bucket. So be very sure that this is spotless in here. First, what we need to do is we need to weigh the honey. So I want about 1.5 kilograms into here. Between 1.5 and 2 kilograms to go into here, and that should make a nice mead. So how am I going to do that? I've got a great big bucket here that's about, must be about 4 or 5 kilograms. So that's going to take ages using a tablespoon. I'm just going to weigh it out, nice and easy. So I'll just have some food scales. These go up to about 2 kilograms. So perfect. Put this on top. I'm going to turn it so it zeros. I'm just going to pour the honey in. Now, to me, it doesn't really matter if a lot of wax gets in here. As I said, it's just more nutrients for the yeast. So I'm going to pour it in like that. Now, I did warm up this honey, so that's why it is dribbling out like water at the moment. So I'm at 1 kilogram now. Doesn't have to be exact, don't worry about it. That's why we drink alcohol, to relax. This hobby is here to relax with. So we've got about 1.5 kilograms, and we've gone about 8 grams over, so it's not too bad. So, got honey on the side there. Don't worry about it. Just give it a wipe. Nice and easy. Honey isn't a sterile product. It is the high sugar content that keeps it sterile, so that's why it doesn't go off. So, you don't have to worry about disinfecting the actual honey bucket, especially if you're just using it for your own purposes. Just wipe the honey off like this, best you can, and then reseal it so water can't get to it. It's only when water gets to the honey that it starts to go off. So in its state like this, perfectly fine. Stick a lid on, happy. I'll best wipe it with some wet paper, just so when I put it on the floor it doesn't make a sticky patch, otherwise the wife will kill me. Right, so I now have 1.5 kilograms of honey in here. It's time to add the water. So I can get rid of the scales. All this water can go in. You don't have to be exact. That's the whole point of mead making. That is why I'm drinking it at the same time, because the more you drink, the less you care. So just pour in as much as you want. You can not top it up all the way to the top, and then you can have a stronger mead. So the higher sugar content in the liquid, the more alcohol that should be produced. Although saying that, Mangrove Jack does have a limit of 18%. So once it gets to 18% alcohol, any sugar that's left won't be fermented, because the alcohol actually kills the yeast. It's like us being trapped inside a box and breathing ourselves to death. That makes sense? So what we're going to do is pour this water in. Go for it. I'd probably say get about halfway and then start your mixing. That's about halfway. This is where the spoon comes in. So just get into the bottom and just start mixing away. It's good to mix it when it's halfway down, just because if it splashes, it stays inside the tub. So there we go. It's looking good. Oh, it smells nice as well. Honey water. Mm. Right. Oh, lovely. Oh, very nice. Right. Pour the rest in. Nice and easy. Don't do that. There we go. Last bit. Lovely. That's why getting these 5 litre bottles of these is much better than having to pour it all out. Lovely. Perfect. So we're going to give that another stir again, because we've probably got a high concentration of sugar water down here, and the top is probably just normal water. So we're just going to mix it up, make sure it's nice and evenly spread. So when it comes to primary fermentation vessels like this bucket, you are going to want a lot of headspace, because fermentation, especially in the first week, is very violent. So what you're going to get is a lot of carbon dioxide pushing up, as well as a lot of foam, because of the surface tension that's in here. It's going to start producing a lot of foam and stuff like that. So you want to have a good headspace so that yeast can expand quite a lot into the headspace. If it's a very small headspace, what you'll end up doing is spraying mead up onto the roof, because it'll pop the airlock off. So yeah, don't do that. So I'm going to get you now, and I'm going to show you what my must looks like. So this is pretty much done. There's only a few more things that I want to recommend for you, but you don't have to listen to them too much if you don't want to. So this is what the mixture looks like now. It's got a bit of a brown look to it. That's the honey. And as you can see, there's bits of wax flowing in it. Don't worry about that. As I said, the wax will actually help the flavour, and it'll actually do good things for the mead as well. So that's fine. But again, if you are not a beekeeper and you just buy local honey, that is still better than buying supermarket stuff. It doesn't have to have wax in it. That just adds extra flavour to it, which I prefer. And if you look here, you can see that the yeast is now well hydrated. It is rising and falling. What that means is that it is now starting to reproduce. And if you look, it is actually filling the whole bottom already. And there's a lovely amount of foam at the top. This is the carbon dioxide that is being pushed out. So can you see those little blobs lifting up and down? That is because the yeast is producing carbon dioxide inside its cells, and then as it gets to the top, it releases the carbon dioxide, and that's when it starts sinking down. So sometimes you'll even see little puffs of carbon dioxide bubbles coming from the bottom. I find this bit really, really fascinating. Can you see the little puffs of carbon dioxide coming from the bottom? Awesome. Right, so the yeast is getting look at the foam that's growing on top now. So that yeast is now reproducing like crazy. But when we put that in here, that is going to be the biggest army of bacteria in there. That'll just push all the other bacteria down, and it will take over and start turning this into the mead that we want it to be using mangrove jack, which is perfect. All we need to do now is add the nutrients and the tea. So I'll show you that now. So as you can see, the tea has stewed very well. The yeast has also started breaking down. That's what that sludge is there. So that yeast is no good for reproducing and turning things into a mead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the tea bags and strain them best I can on all the goodness. There's one. There's two. Actually looks like a pretty decent cup of tea. Okay, squeeze it. There we are. Get all the goodness out. And then that is the yeast that, as you can see, is just turned into a big globule. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and stir that up to try and break it down and get it mixed into this tea as best as I can. But what we don't want is any stuck to the sides, because we want to use all of this yeast as nutrients. That'll do for now. This will come off when I've added it to the must. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to add the tea, and we're going to add the broken down yeasts. So there it goes, bottoms up. Yeah. We're just going to have a look, see if there's any yeast on the inside. Not really, it's all stuck on this spoon. So I'm going to be cheeky. I'm just going to push that off. Like so. Perfect. I dribbled a bit, oops. So that's that. Right, and then the final bit, which I've been holding off telling you about until now, is the acid. So the acid in here needs to be maintained. During fermentation, things can get a bit dicey, so you can get different levels of pH in here through fermentation. So what you need is an acid buffer. Now you can get something specialised, or you can do what many actual mead makers do, and that is use a lemon. And a blunt knife. Jesus. So just squeeze it. Don't have to get all of it, just squeeze some of it like that. You won't be able to taste it in the end. It just controls the pH of the mead. Oh yeah, that's it. That was easy, wasn't it? Don't worry if any of the seeds or the pith went in there. It's fine. That'll just either float to the top or float to the bottom, and then we get to second fermentation, which is going to be the next video on this. We'll rack the mead out of it so it doesn't actually affect it in any way. Yeah, so now we should have the perfect must for what we need it for. Easy. So I'm going to deviate a little bit. This is for me, it's not for you. So don't have to do this whatsoever. This is a me thing, okay? I have some oak chips. Now, you can buy oak chips, charred oak chips from brewing stores and stuff like that. I made these myself. There's loads of oak around here. I found a downed oak, chopped it up, and I charred it under the grill. Only slightly set fire to the house. It was fine. But now I have these perfect little cubes. I'll show you what they look like. There we are. A little darkened oak block. See where it's been really charred. Now, this is really good in the sense that it gives you extra depth. It gives you more mouthfeel because of the tannins in this. And when you break down the wood, the connective tissue in the wood, it creates a sort of vanilla-y taste. So it gives a bit of more of a vanilla-y taste to your mead. So I'm going to add about 10 of these. Again, this isn't necessary. This is entirely just me being me. I always have to experiment somehow. So I'm going to add these. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's always one. There's always one. 11. Right, so that is now finished. All I have left to do is to add the yeast, which is here. And as you can see, it's lovely and foamy. I'll bring it to you. So if you can see there, you can see the foam has really started to rise. The yeast has started to multiply, and there is lots and lots of activity going on in there. So that's cool. So it's time to pitch the yeast. So we don't have the same issue here, where I pee away half the bloody tea. I'm going to do it inside and just pour it like that, nice and easy. Lovely. If you still have a spoon hanging around, scoop a bit, pour it in here. Try and get as much of the yeast back as possible. Pour it in. That's it. So what I'm going to do is, just to make things a bit better, I'm just going to stir it again. Give it a good mix. And there you are. Now, something that you should do is get a lot of oxygen in here. So I've had to come outside for the aeration part of this video, and that's because last time I did this, I made a mess in the dining room, and it was still sticky up until we had to have the floor removed and replaced. The wife was not happy. So, aeration. Come outside, or somewhere that you don't mind getting a bit of a sticky mess, with your bucket. Put your thumb, well, first of all, make sure the lid is tight. We don't want any leakages whatsoever. Put your thumb over the valve where the airlock goes, just so nothing can escape, and then you're going to shake this like crazy for a good, I don't know, 5 minutes. So hopefully I can speed this up for you guys, but it's going to take me for absolutely ages. Just going to give my arms a rest. The reason that we aerate so early on is that this is all the oxygen that the yeast is going to have. There is oxygen cells in the sugar, obviously, but what you want to do is fill that water with as much oxygen as possible, because early on it means that the yeast will be able to grow big and strong and healthy, and it should last throughout the rest of the fermentation for the next 2 weeks. If it doesn't have that much oxygen in it, then you could cause trouble. It could stress out the yeast and cause some off flavours, which is a big problem with mead, as you may have realised by now. What you don't want is oxygen getting in later on. So after the first week, no more getting oxygen into this mead mixture. The reason for that is because it will oxidate the alcohol, and that will make it possibly turn a bit sour, may turn it into vinegar, because you're letting other things in. After the first week, you just want to stir it very gently, let any carbon dioxide out, but then that's it. You want to make sure that there's a lovely layer of carbon dioxide between the mead and the rest of the air outside the bucket. But for now, let's get back to shaking. So every single day now, for 2 weeks, you're going to go in and stir it like this. And you're going to stir it until no more foam comes to the surface, or fizz. Okay? It sounds like a massive commitment, but it's only for 2 weeks, and it's only once or twice a day if you really want to. Just do it until no more fizz comes up, and job done. It's another reason why I use chemisan in a spray, because it means I can now wash this, keep it nearby, and then when it comes to the day that I need to stir it, just wash it again, and then give it a good spray, give it a good mix. It takes a matter of 5 minutes. Easy. But yeah, that is now done. Cool. That should start fermenting overnight. So this is the last bit now. The mead has been made, or rather started. We need to do this. This is the airlock, and I'll bring you closer for that. As you can see, the airlock is empty. That's absolutely fine for now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, the chemisan. So I'm going to loosen it a bit so it shoots in a straight line, and then I'm just going to shoot it down here. I'm going to get it to about here, about halfway, and then put this inside. This may overflow a little bit, so don't worry if it does. We'll just slowly lower it down, and there we go. Now you can push that down, but I don't like to do that because I find sometimes it causes this to pop off and you lose it. But that now means that there's only a way out for air, and there's no way in for any like fruit flies or any other beasties like bacteria and stuff like that. So this is now a sealed unit, airtight, and that's the only way in and out. Perfect. There you go. I think we're done for the next 2 weeks. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've joined in, and I'm really excited to see what mead that you're making. Throw other things in there. It doesn't have to be like this. You can add apples to it to make a cider. You can add mixed berries to it, all sorts. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of recipes out there if you want to go onto Google. This is just a nice, easy, basic mead for people who are just getting into it. The next stage of this is 2 weeks for the initial fermentation. After that, we do a secondary fermentation. So what that means is that we take the mead out of here, leaving all the dead yeast at the bottom, leaving all the guff that floats at the top, and we just take the mead from in between, so like that. And we put it into a fresh vessel that's lovely and clean. Secondary fermentation is where a lot of the flavours come in and a lot of the bad flavours go out. So primary fermentation is very vigorous, it's very strong, it produces a lot of off flavors. So if you are going to be transferring it and you taste it, it's going to taste like crap. Don't worry about it. That happens. Mead, once it's in secondary fermentation, it's best if you just forget about it. So as I said in one of my videos, the meads that I've got in the garage are all 5 years old at least. So the longer you forget about it before you bottle it, the better it will taste. So this mead now is pretty much done. Once it goes in secondary, I'm just going to forget about it. I might just stick it in the loft and just ignore it. And then maybe when I die in like 40 years or something, my daughter will go into the loft and be like, oh, Dad's mead. And she'll try it, and it will be the best mead that she's ever had because I've left it for 40 years untouched. Because that's mead. It just tastes better the longer you leave it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It means that other people can see this video as well. If you want to follow along and join in, which I'm really excited by, I really want you guys to join in, hit the subscribe button, and you can follow along this journey with me while it's the cold season and I'm not doing anything with the bees. If you have any strange mead recipes that you fancy trying out, tell me about it in the comments section. I love reading the comments and I love responding to you guys. It's the best thing about YouTube. And if you're on Facebook or Instagram, something like that, take a picture, send me videos. Tell me which mead that you're going to be drinking while you're making this. I love you guys getting in touch. So just get in touch. It makes my day. Okay? Okay. Right, I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye-bye.